I know what you're thinking. No one expects the quiet ones to start a revolution, right? But sometimes, the smallest, most invisible people leave the deepest mark, just like Grace Ellis. If you've ever wondered whether a tiny act could flip a whole world upside down, you're about to find out. Because what happened between a grieving child, a silent house, and a woman everyone else overlooked changed everything. Yeah, that happened, and I'm not even exaggerating. Grace Ellis, she never planned to matter. In fact, working as a cleaner in one of those Connecticut mansions, she was practically invisible, knees raw from scrubbing the backstone path, face always turned away when the rich folks came near. But on a random Thursday in April, while the wind pushed at the cherry blossoms and nobody noticed the $15 million estate groaning with its own silence, something shifted. There was this little boy, Miles, always curled up under that old tree, back bent like he was trying to make himself disappear, and the whole staff, therapists, housekeepers, even the cook, had stopped trying to talk to him. They'd all heard the manager. Let the professionals handle it. But the pros came and went, marking time on their clipboards, leaving more lost than when they arrived. 16 months. Not a word out of Miles. Not since the night his mother just collapsed at dinner and never woke up. Most people forgot he was even there. Grace, though, she never forgot what silence could mean. Sometimes, it's just grief holding its breath. That day, she was rinsing her mop, hands deep in soapy water, when a memory flashed, a Georgia childhood. Blowing bubbles out back of a hot little church, just cheap detergent and hope, you know? And maybe that's why, without thinking, she scooped up some of the suds, pinched a film between her fingers, and blew one bubble, floating sunlight through the air. She didn't look at Miles, didn't dare, but in the corner of her eye she saw him lift his head, slow, as if waking up. His eyes locked on that bubble, tracked its flight, and for the first time in forever, he reached, soft, careful, not grabbing, just letting his hand hang under it as if he could wish it to stay. The bubble popped. He looked right at Grace, a silent secret passing between them. And he smiled. Not big, not forced, just the tiniest upturn, but loud enough to crack open the silence that owned the house. Grace held still. You never chase a moment like that. You just let it land. She blew another bubble. Then another. Something old and heavy lifted, if only for a breath. No words. She wasn't allowed to speak to him anyway. That was the rule. But in that silence, he spoke louder than he ever had. The next morning, nothing seemed different. She clocked in, tied her apron, checked the list. But when she stepped outside, there he was, sitting in the same spot, eyes waiting, no wave, no sound, but watching. She knelt nearby, blew another bubble, and the rhythm settled in. She'd blow, he'd watch, and every so often, he'd scoot closer, by an inch, a foot. It didn't look like progress. Not if you were measuring it with charts, but in that house, it was everything. What neither of them saw was Jonathan Whitmore upstairs, glued to the security feed. Watching this woman he barely remembered hiring somehow reach his son with nothing but dish soap. It was like a slap. He'd spent thousands on therapists. But here was a cleaning lady doing what no expert had managed. He didn't know whether to feel grateful or embarrassed or furious, so he did nothing. He just kept watching, day after day. Even when the staff started whispering about the bubble games in the garden. Days passed, and the unspoken ritual between Grace and Miles deepened. A game of fingers, 3 bubbles. A quiet exchange, no need for permission. Sometimes, Miles would reach into the bucket, touch the water, smear it on his pants. Nothing big, but Grace felt her heart stutter every time. She never tried to fix him, just showed up, same time, same way, letting him lead. Meanwhile, Jonathan struggled with the realization that his own child was choosing the maid over him. He started showing up by the window instead of the monitors, standing just far enough not to intrude. One day, Miles brought a blue crayon to the garden. He drew a circle on the stone, then looked up at Grace and patted the ground beside him. She sat, legs crossed, inside his circle. That was the invitation, no words needed. She mirrored his drawing on her notepad, and Miles scooted closer. That inch changed everything. The spell between them was real now, built on quiet and consent, not therapy plans. And behind the glass, Jonathan saw it happen and felt something like shame crack through him. He'd been so busy fixing that he'd missed the only connection that mattered. Eventually, Jonathan called Grace to his office. Tense, defensive, arms crossed. He demanded to know why Miles responded to her, not the professionals. Maybe because I didn't ask him to, she replied. Cool as you like. He's not a patient. He's a boy who lost something he doesn't know how to name. Jonathan tried to argue, but Grace just shrugged. She showed up for Miles the way she wished someone had done for her own son long before. That truth landed heavy, and for the first time, Jonathan admitted he didn't know how to help his own child. He only knew how to manage, not to wait. Grace told him, stillness isn't passive. Sometimes, it's the only thing you can offer. Then came the twist that no one saw coming. The outside world crashed in. An envelope arrived. Miles's grandparents, the Hartfords, were suing for emergency custody, claiming Jonathan was negligent for letting untrained staff care for the boy. Headlines, court threats, whispers of scandal, all of it. Jonathan panicked. The staff tensed, and even Grace seemed shaken. For a few agonizing days, she was told to stay away while legal storm clouds gathered. Miles shut down again, retreating into silence. Writing one shaky word in blue crayon on the garden stone, bubble. Jonathan tried to take her place, tried to blow a bubble for his son, failing, awkward. But then Miles laughed. And that one fragile sound told him everything. He learned to just sit, quietly, to let the silence do its work. Finally, at the custody hearing, the judge did something no one expected. She asked Miles who made him feel safe. The boy didn't hesitate. He walked straight to Grace and whispered, "Bubbles." The whole courtroom froze. And in that moment, law and money and bloodlines fell away. What mattered was connection, and even the judge knew it. Custody stayed with Jonathan, and as they walked out, Grace and Miles and Jonathan together, the cameras flashing and the headlines waiting, it was clear this family had been forged not by blood, but by choice. Afterward, everything shifted. Grace didn't return as just a maid. She came back as something unlabeled, sitting with Miles, holding space for his slow blooming. The old mansion turned into a sanctuary for other kids, too. The East Wing transformed into a place where healing wasn't about diagnoses, but about being seen. Miles showed the new kids how to blow bubbles, how to be quiet together, how to come back from the dark one small act at a time. He called her Mama G, and it stuck, not because she asked for it, but because she earned it, day after day. Jonathan, for his part, learned to let go of the illusion of control. He turned off the garden cameras for good, let the routine slip, and instead, just stayed. Imperfect, present, real. The house softened. Laughter returned, and nobody needed to ask if Miles was okay. They could see it in the way he danced across the hallways, drawing suns and circles and writing home in uneven letters under 3 stick figures on the fridge. And one afternoon, when Miles released a single bubble into the sky and whispered, "That one's for Mom," Grace and Jonathan stood beside him, hand in hand, no more words needed. The world outside kept talking, arguing about who was right, what was legal, who belonged where. But inside that garden, something truer had grown. A family, unfinished and unexpected, held together by patience, loss, and the willingness to simply stay. So let me ask you, have you ever seen a moment like that, where silence spoke louder than words, where a bubble carried more hope than 1,000 experts ever could? Tell me, which part of this story made you feel something? Leave your thoughts below. Maybe your comment will be the bubble that changes someone else's day. And if this story stuck with you, you know what to do. Subscribe, stick around. We craft every story with the hope that it'll land exactly where it's needed. Thank you for listening. Means more than you know.